Your mind solved a problem for you once, so it kept the solution running, even after the problem was gone, even years later, even now. And what felt like protection back then feels like a cage today. Neuroscientists call it a default mode network. It's the part of your brain that activates when you're not focused on anything specific, when you're in the shower, driving, lying in the dark before sleep. And what does it do in those quiet moments? It runs simulations, conversations you haven't had yet, scenarios that haven't happened, versions of the future where everything goes wrong. Researchers at Harvard discovered that people spend nearly 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're actually doing. Almost half your life lived somewhere else. And the study found one more thing. That mental wandering, almost without exception, made people less happy. Not neutral, less happy. Here's what makes this so personal. The content of your mental loops isn't random. Your brain isn't just generating noise. It's running specific, familiar scripts. The same arguments, the same what-ifs, the same memories dressed up slightly differently each time. And those scripts were written at a very specific moment in your life. A moment when your nervous system decided, this situation is dangerous. Remember it. Rehearse it. Never be caught off guard again. That decision made complete sense then. The problem is, your brain never got the memo that the situation ended. There was a man named Elias who worked as a bridge inspector in a small northern city. His job was to find what was wrong, to look for cracks, for weakness, for the thing most likely to fail. He was exceptional at it. But somewhere along the way, his mind started doing his job for him, off the clock. At dinner, he inspected conversations for cracks. In relationships, he scanned for weakness. In every plan, he found the thing most likely to fail. He wasn't anxious. He was thorough. That's what he told himself. Until the night his daughter asked him, "Dad, do you ever just look at something and think it's fine?" He didn't have an answer. Elias's pattern has a name in cognitive behavioral therapy. It's called hypervigilance. Originally a survival mechanism, developed in environments where threats were real and missing one could be fatal. But the brain doesn't automatically downgrade threat detection when the environment becomes safe. It keeps scanning. It keeps flagging. It keeps presenting evidence that danger might be near. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, one of the leading researchers on trauma and the brain, describes it this way: the body and the mind keep the score long after the game is over. You adapted. You survived. And now the adaptation itself is the problem. Here's the pattern interrupt nobody talks about. Fighting anxious thoughts doesn't work. And there's a reason. When you argue with a thought, when you tell yourself stop, that's irrational, don't think about it, you're giving that thought direct attention. You're treating it as something worth engaging. And your brain interprets attention as importance. So it files the thought as critical. Return to this. Psychologists call this the white bear problem, named after an experiment where subjects were told not to think about a white bear. Within seconds, every single one of them thought about a white bear. Suppression doesn't clear the thought. It amplifies it. So what actually works? Not fighting. Not suppressing. Something that feels almost too simple to be real. Observation without ownership. The neuroscience behind this comes from studies on mindfulness and prefrontal cortex activation. When you shift from being inside a thought to watching a thought, literally using language like, "I notice I'm having the thought that," activity in the brain's emotional center decreases measurably. You haven't deleted the thought. You've changed your relationship to it. You move from passenger trapped in the car to someone standing on the sidewalk watching the car drive past. Same car, completely different experience. Elias learned this not from a therapist, but from an unlikely place. His own work. One afternoon, inspecting a bridge he'd checked dozens of times before, he noticed something. He could look at a crack in the concrete and not panic. He could assess it. Is this structural or surface level? Is this growing or stable? Does this require action now or monitoring over time? He didn't catastrophize. He didn't dismiss. He just looked clearly and asked, "What is this actually?" That night, he tried it on his thoughts. Not, "Stop thinking this." Not, "Prove this wrong." Just, "What is this actually? Is it structural or surface level? Is it growing or am I just tired?" For the first time in years, a thought came and moved on without him chasing it. Here's the insight I want you to carry from this video. Your mind is not broken. It is not your enemy. It is extraordinarily good at the job it was trained to do. The question is whether that job still fits your life. Because the mind that kept you safe in a difficult chapter, the one that stayed alert, that planned for every failure, that never let its guard down, that mind served you. It just doesn't know the chapter ended. And you can't fire it. You can't override it with willpower. But you can retrain it. Slowly. With repetition. By showing it, again and again, that a thought passing through is not the same as a threat arriving. That noticing something is not the same as becoming it. That you are not the storm moving through your mind. You are the sky it moves through. So here's where I'll leave you. Not with a technique. Not with a homework assignment. Just with a question for the next time a mental loop starts. Instead of asking, how do I stop this thought? Ask, what was this thought originally protecting me from? Because when you can answer that, when you can see the original wound underneath the pattern, something shifts. The loop doesn't disappear immediately, but it loses its authority. And in that small, quiet loss of authority, you get a little more of yourself back.